What's up? Good morning, everybody. How's everybody doing? All right. Tip of the hat to John Troy Nickel and I Has Toys. Good to see you guys. Hope all is well, homie. And yeah, let's get rolling. How's everybody doing this morning? We got some people from the Facebook world, we got people from YouTube world, we got people from Twitch world. Alright, so this is Dude that we've been working on here for a little bit, and we will continue to get this guy rolling. That's the plan. Alright. Guys are always free to ask questions if you'd like. But we are going to get rolling. Today, what are we going to work on today? I think we're going to work on trying to finish up the leg, which is what we started working on last time. And I think we might get into this hand, because it needs lots of love. Lots of love. But without further ado, let's get rolling. Okay, light's green. I like green lights. Base details. Which one am I on? I'm not even on the right one. Okay. You'll see I'm actually using a lot of layers for this guy, because he is an ogre and they do have layers. Right now I'm just trying to get in the final major shapes. No, not the major shapes. The secondary and tertiary beginning details. So I'm not worried about like pore details or anything. Right now I'm trying to get kind of skin folds and how they're going to be looking and acting. You be acting right. I think last time we left off we were just kind of starting to get into it. So I'm just trying to pull back in some of these little areas just to kind of get them integrated a little better, so not so weird in where and how they end. I'm gonna fade some of those off. Let me just check my stream, make sure everything's going okay. Okay, we got people. What's up, people? When you guys throw something in chat real quick just to make sure my chat's working. All right. Let me just check something real quick. Oh, yes, it works. Okay, good. Thank you, sir. We are good to go then. Keep rolling, 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 rolling. Look at that ugly ass foot. Ugh. Oh yeah, last episode was sculpting feet and telling you guys how much I hate feet. It's gross. Gross. We're gonna try to get just some extra little shapes going through here. Gravity I turned off. Okay. Start pulling out some of these skin folds, giving just an extra little bit of life here. See what this side is going to look like. We're not really going to see this very much on this side, but I want to make sure that it still looks right. How's everybody doing this morning? Life's good? Alright. Basically, I'm just hitting these with damp standard and inflate. Just to get a little extra life in there. Happy little lines. Happy little folds. Something like that. Sometimes too I like to use this gravity strength, which is kind of fun. Basically what that does is it just that's with high gravity, no gravity. That looks really close to the same thing. What if it's not working? Gravity direction. Oh, that's cool. Why aren't you working? That's weird. Ah, it is kind of working. Never mind. There we go. Anyway, sometimes I like to use a little gravity. Yeah, Dr. Scholl's may work for this guy. Anyways, it helps add a little bit of downward weight when you're using the inflate brush. Get a little bit, some gravity happening there. I think we need to add a little bit. Yo, Gail, what's up, buddy? How you doing, man? A little fade off through here. How are you, man? Hopefully life is going well. try to get a couple of big ones through here. What's up, V-Mate? I'm using just Intuos 5 and just a standard monitor, I guess. It's I don't know, 28 or 26. Go back to freelance? Nice. Back to the freelance life. Back to freelance with you? Yes, I am going to the ZBrush Summit. I'm really looking forward to it. That's like this weekend. That's crazy. Are you Gail? No, you're not LA local, are you? Well, that doesn't really matter, but you, I'm assuming, are not going? I think it's a bit of a trip for you. But I am looking forward to it. Getting off work early on Friday, flying down to LA, hanging out with the peoples. I do a little bit of freelancing. I don't really do much game stuff at the moment for freelancing. I mostly do just models and stuff. I used to do a lot of game freelance stuff, but now that I'm in studio, most of that work is there. One day. One day. Yeah, I heard that before. This plan. It's worth it, man. The ZBrush Summit is one of the ones that, one of the conferences that I always try to go to every year. It just, I always get so much out of it, just from, you know, the talks are amazing, the workshops are awesome. It really is just, it's just hanging out with industry friends and meeting new artists and just kind of overall being in that world, you know, for a full weekend, nerding out with fellow artists. That's always fun. Here I am sculpting the foot again. God, I hate feet. So at least try to get some form differentiation between the toe and the toenail, just so that when light goes off of it, you'll be able to see the difference, right? You'll see back here, you'll see more shadow. Up here, you'll see a separated highlight from the toe. So it really gives the shape, right? You can read that from really far away. It's all really, really important to know what your reads are, especially for sculpts like this, something that will eventually exist outside of your computer. You really want to keep track of how things are reading and what the shapes are doing, because you're not going to be relying on the super fine pore detail to hold it up. You're really, you know, first and secondary forms and the touch of tertiary forms. That's really what is going to be selling your model. So you want to make sure that your secondary forms are your most important ones. Oops, not that one. Really want to make sure that the overall shapes are reading really nicely. Just going to go back and pull a couple more of these in. Push. I'm going to pull them in. My word. I don't want all these to be too soft. So sometimes I'll just come back and hit some of them again, just to pull a little bit more of that detail back. All right. Now I think I want to add a little bit of this extra skin stuff, probably back here. Right now it's feeling a little one-sided. So I'm going to see what that looks like. So I'm just going to add another layer. We'll go skin folds 2. So I'm going to go down in subdivisions. Take my focal length up quite a bit for my clay build. And I want to just see if I can get a couple feeling just correct. Carl asks, how much of this detail will be visible in a printed model, and is there a way to tell before printing? I think one of the ways that you can do it, I mean, nothing's ever really like, oh, this is exactly how much from my experience. You could always do test prints of a particular piece. So let's say you do, like, you just want to print this piece, or like maybe you want to do just the arm, right? You could actually like take this hand off and get it printed and see what it's going to do. So that's one way. The other is just guesstimating, really. You know, like how tall is this thing gonna be versus what I've seen in other prints. Yo, Mike, how you doing, buddy? Welcome to the stream, man. How are you? Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, as for trying to figure out, you know, what the level of details you'll see in the actual print, I probably have to forward that to more professional print guys. Joe Mena, he'd know a lot about that. He's probably a good guy to ask. So think just getting a couple of these extra large bits in here to help sell this like a little bit more saggy skin around the knee, similar to what we have going on in the shoulder here. Right? How does that read from back here? Actually reads okay. Feels kind of good. How many years have you been practicing to be so good at ZBrush? Well, we're always learning. If you could, I always feel like I could be better. But I've been, so I started ZBrush back in 2000, 2005. Started dabbling in it then, but I took a break from the industry, from the gaming industry, and worked in the medical industry for about 4 or 5 years. So I didn't actually pick ZBrush back up in earnest until 2000, end of 2013. So I've been going fairly well at it for about 5 years. But I use it every day, you know? Or I didn't at first, but I do now. I mean, a software is just a software. Um, it's really about teaching your eye how to look and what to look for. You know, reading silhouette values, looking at compound forms, um, knowing what to look for and how shapes work is probably the most important thing you can do, because that translates to any software that you're using. Well, good, man. I'm super glad it helps out. That's why I'm here. I could do all this crap on my own, but it's really about sharing and showing. That actually feels kind of good. Well, thanks, Sylvan. Appreciate it, man. Yeah, it's very rewarding to have put in a lot of time and effort into something that you love and be able to give back. And the biggest thing that I can hope to do is inspire people. So when people tell me that I have inspired them, that's very rewarding for me. So I'm super glad that I'm able to inspire you, man. Let's pull that back a little bit. That shape is a little too deep, right? Because we're looking at the, I always forget which side is which, but I think the semitendinous is on the outside and the biceps femoris is on the inside. I could have those reversed. But basically you have a division of those two shapes, which it doesn't look like this, it looks more like that. We're just subtle. What's up, Over? How you doing, man? I think maybe we can pull this one back just a touch. Let's pull my Z intensity back on my... Let's just have that fall off a little bit earlier. So when it creeps around into the actual knee, because the way that the knee is right now is all of this is pulling back and this is pulling back. So anything that's right here should be nice and tight against that, against the patella and the muscles and forms in here. So you're not really going to see a lot of skin sag in those areas where they're tight against the bone and muscle. You'll see it more where it's not flexed and pulled against. Some of the things to keep in mind. Alright, and then we'll add some supporting smaller, maybe we'll cross a couple of these. See if we can get some of that. The question is, have you ever worked on something that you had doubts that you would be able to do? Yeah, that's pretty much every single project. Including this one. I don't think I want to break this big form, because I like how this is pulling through here. I don't think I want to break that. Yeah, as for base models, I usually almost always use a base model to start from, unless I'm doing anatomy practice. Once you start getting getting to go and getting into, you know, production phases and that kind of stuff, time is really a factor. So anything you can do to help speed yourself up and get to the place that you need to be quicker. And that helps by not having to reinvent the wheel every time. So I actually highly encourage people to start from base meshes. Unless you're doing practice. You know, if you're doing anatomy practice, do the base model. If not, then start with the base mesh and get to the important stuff quicker. This guy actually, I think I started from a base mesh on this guy. Pretty sure I did. But you can never tell because I've mutilated it so far from what that base mesh was. Posed and reformed, and it just helped me get there much quicker. Yeah, man. Even at work, you know, when I get something, to work on, I'm like, holy crap, how am I gonna do that? But then at that point, you really just you focus on your experience and the trust in yourself to be able to solve a problem. That's really what it is, you know. So if my art director comes up to me, he's like, "Hey, can you do this thing?" You're like, "Yeah." And then later you're like, "Crap, how the hell am I gonna, how the hell am I gonna do that?" But then you just, you know, you sit back and you solve the problems, you know, one by one. Think about big picture stuff, and then next thing you know, you're starting to do work, and you use your training and all of the knowledge that you've used and gained to make informed decisions, and then next thing you know, you have something that should look good because you use your training, you use all of them art knowledges. One last question would be, is your preferred software for base mesh Maya or 3ds Max? Whatever works for you. Me personally, I do all my base meshes in ZBrush. What's up, Juglo? How you doing, man? I am well. Thanks, Burris. So I think that works. That feels pretty good. I think in that same vein, maybe I'll pull this guy back just a little bit. That way it's not creeping into this nice tight portion. I think maybe we can fill this area back in a little bit. So that we have that nice form that everything is pulling from. Yeah. So now from this angle, right, we get this really nice back, this movement here, we got this nice movement, and then now everything, you know, more eyes come down here to be able to follow this, right? It follows this, so this detail is pointing down, like, oh, he's standing on a thing. Oh, what is that thing, right? So you really want to be able to focus or at least concentrate on where you're directing your viewer's eyes, right? Because you want to be able to, in a diorama like this, you want to be able to tell a story. Same thing with design in general. You know, when you're designing a the layout of a illustration or a photo, you're really working on directing the eye where you want it to go. those same things apply, believe it or not, in 3D print too, right? Where do you want the feel to go? You know, the cool thing about 3D print stuff is that you get to tell that story from 360 degrees, which is awesome, right? So like, if you're looking at it from this angle, what's this composition say? Or what does it have your eye do? You know, what does this one do? What does this one do? You know? So being able to not have a weak spot. I think that's one of the big things in 3D is not having a weak angle. If you can nail pretty much every major angle that your model can be viewed from and have it be dynamic and storytelling and eye driving and interesting, that's what really makes a super strong piece, right? From this angle, what's this doing? You know, I think this one right here is probably my weakest angle at the moment. But as soon as you start to get here, it starts to you start seeing this movement and you start seeing this nice stuff in the back. You know, some balance. I think this right here is probably my weakest angle. So I want to be aware of that so that I can do something to fix that, right? Because I don't want it to be weak in any of those angles. Yeah, deadlines are tough, but the nice thing is that if you do enough work, you know what you're capable of or what you can do, and then just make informed decisions from there. I think one of the common misconceptions in young artists is not knowing your speed. You know what I mean? So knowing how long it takes you to do something is really important, especially in freelance. Super important. But being able to stick to your guns in that. A lot of time the producer that, you know, if a producer comes by, let's say if you're in studio and a producer comes by, they're like, all right, well, you know, how much time do you think that's going to take? You give them a real answer, you know, and then they'll be able to plan around that. If they give you something that is like absolutely ridiculous, you're like, okay, I can do it in that time, but it's not going to be that good. You know? All right, where was I? All right. So I think this area right here still needs some love with some of this nice secondary work. Feel like it's a little bit bare. It's good to have resting areas for your eyes, so like maybe here or here or here. You know, we'll do a little bit here, but I feel like this resting area is way too big compared to like this one or this one or this one or this one. I feel like I need to add something in here. What is that going to be? At this point, I don't know. So I'm just going to kind of mess around with some forms just to see what could work. I have no idea what I'm going to do at this point, but I know I want something probably in here where we can have some nice eye rest area here and maybe down here. But I really want to kind of add something in here. Maybe because he's pulling, this is compressing. Maybe we have some more You know, how's the skin going to work through here? Maybe what it's doing is it's coming like that. Yeah, especially in freelance, if a client is asking for some unrealistic deadline, you can give them two answers. Um, I can do it, but it's not going to be, you know, the quality. If it's going to be, if it's going to, well, you got to be careful what you say with clients, but just find a way to say that if you need something quicker, um, you know, you may not reach this particular level of detail. And just and be realistic. So, I mean, think about, you know, being in the shoes of the person who's trying to get the work um, to an artist, right? Like, you have somebody saying, "Okay, we need this thing done by now." Um, that starts feeling a little better. Probably, I always advise against putting like agreeing yourself into a corner. Um, it's it's always better to be realistic with people. You say, you know, if you have a problem with the time, just be like, look, this really isn't enough time to get to the quality bar that I'm comfortable with in delivering. So it can be done, but the quality will be suffer. You know what I mean? Just be upfront and realistic. I think that's probably the best thing that you can do. And if they say that's fine, then then you're managing their expectations. You know what I mean? That's all good, man. What's up, Mabel? How you doing? Luis, how are you, sir? This one I don't like this one. This form kind of goes against this movement. So I want to be careful that I'm not creating line breaks too much. So maybe I just want to pull that back. And then maybe what this is going to do is come this way. So I still want to have that flow. Any tips on sculpting details on models? Not layers, but do a first pass and then do another pass and then do another pass and then do another pass. Just keep adding on to stuff and make sure you have a good base. Mike Black says, anyone know a good place to get feedback on work in progress for 3D characters? Yeah, I would do either um, the Pixelogic group on Facebook or ZBrush Central. Yeah, ZBrush is right around the corner, man. Looking forward to it. Also, want to make sure that I don't completely connect between two lines. You know, like if you have something and then you have another line, your mind kind of automatically connects those. I want to make sure that I'm not doing that between this and this, right? No problem, over. I mean, that's the thing, is like you really just got to be realistic out there in that crazy world. I think this form is wrong right here. This shape right here, this doesn't make any sense. You have the biceps femoris, no, sorry, the rectus femoris coming in here. You have the vastus medius through here, and the vastus lateralis that comes in through here, right? Like this. And there's this little area in between. Like that's nothing. This should be should not be a shape there. What's up, Peck and June? How you guys doing? I think what I can do is actually pull this form out a little bit right here to give a little bit more of that muscle. I want to make sure that it doesn't creep too far down because I don't want the same form on both sides of the knee. The vastus medius actually ends, vastus lateralis ends. Is it Huame? So the end's a little bit higher than the medius. So I want to make sure that that shape is staggered, right? This is staggered from this one. So I just want to give a little bit more shape to that thigh there, which I think is a little much. Again, you'll notice that I'm really looking at it from as many angles as I can. Oh, Jaime. Jamie. I'm so bad with Twitch names. In any form, even if it's somebody's actual name, something about trying to pronounce names that have the Twitch logo in front of it. Okay. Alright, so that feels pretty good. This feels a little bit better. It's just a little something up there. I may come back a little bit because it's a little bit funky. But at least there's a little bit of something going on in here. Okay. I think the other thing that I really want to work on was this angle today. Really, for me, this is the weak spot. So here's some of the things that I like and what I don't like, and how to look at your model, right? So I think, so what I usually do is I look at silhouettes and then I look at surface detail, right? So in this particular shot, there's some cool stuff happening, right? You can see his hand on the other side. You get to see the leg happening. I think that probably one of the strongest things for me right now is this. This is pretty cool. Maybe not so much here, but this is cool. Right, so this is, I think, is the strongest part for me, where all of this is still kind of weak. Right, this is a little weak. So I think once I get more detail in the forearm, that will help balance this side out. So I think that's what I'm going to do is I'm going to work on the forearm up here to really help this weak side. Everything else is feeling pretty good so far. Still got to fix this stuff up here. Alright, let's work on this hand. And this forearm. Let's save. We haven't saved yet. If you're working, don't forget to save your work. Do it! This guy is 8.6 million so far. Minus. He's probably about 7 million. Gotcha, Jeff. Gotcha! Okay. So, evaluation time. Where am I? So I feel like the form from this side feels pretty good. We've got some nice kind of secondary forms happening in here. You can see the bicep as it's deforming through here. We can see a little bit of one of the ligaments. That's cool. We can see some nice transition from the inner wrist to the forearm through here. I think this is a little bit weak here. The elbow looks okay for now. I think it's really right here. The hand and the wrist really are the things that aren't really working for me. Yes, this is God of War fan art. So yes, it is very heavily inspired by God of War. Yes. I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create a layer here. Actually, you know what? Let's look at the topology. It's a little bit wackadoo. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to re-topo it real quick and reproject it. I think is what I'm going to do. Because then I can clean up this. So let's do that real quick. I did it before, but what I really don't like right now is all of this weird stretching that's happening through here. This. And get some weird stretching through here. So let's retop real quick and reproject. So, alright, so these four I have turned off. Everything else is on, correct? Yep, okay. So let's shift click. That turns everything off. We'll duplicate this guy. Turn that on. So now we have both of those. Alright. Now what we'll do is we'll do just a quick geo. We'll do same. ZBrush. What's up, virtual? It's really just practice. That's how you get good. Just practice. Just practice. Know your anatomy, know your forms. Learn how to see your work. Okay, so now we have that. Then what I think I'll do is I'm just going to mask this area because I don't want it to project all those funky details. There we go, that works. Okay, now we turn both of them on, and then we do project. Just do a quick project. Alright, now we have better topology through here. Feel like the topology through there is a little bit better. I'm just looking for even, relatively even topology. This is fine. Okay, so let's clear the mask. Let's make sure I don't have layers on. No layers. Alright, let's subdivide a couple of times. And we'll see how many polys we got. This is 451,000. Let's do one more. Put us up to 1.8 million. Okay, so now I can, let's turn this dude off. Wait, this dude. Yes. So I'm going to shift click on this one. That'll turn everything on. We'll grab this guy, we'll throw him down to the bottom. We'll turn these 4 or 5 off now. And then there we go. There's our new arm. All projected and ready for some details. Any advice to help learn anatomy? I've been spending some time drawing out muscle groups and things like that. Yeah, just keep going, man. That's really it. So I would say usually what I tell people is start with groups first. You know, start with the arm. You know, what consists of the arm, the tricep, the deltoid. Know what the muscles are and the muscle groups. Like, you don't have to know all of the extensors and contractors in the forearm. Just know the basic groups. And, you know, like, contractors are down here, extensors are up here. And then just focus on the arm for a while. And then once you've got that stuff down, go into the back. Figure out what those back muscles are doing. Figure out what the major groups are and what they connect to, you know, what bones they connect to. And then once you got that, move to the chest and do the whole torso. Right? By that time, you should be able to do the torso and the arms. I wouldn't worry about hands at that point. And then just move from there. Once you have the torso and the arms down, start doing the legs. That's usually how I suggest people starting. The most important thing, I think, is to just keep going and keep practicing. Carl's asking, do you make the keys to connect the pieces, or do they do it at the printers? From my understanding, so far, it depends on the workshop that you're working with. Some will do it and some will not. It also depends on who you're working for. If you're doing it by yourself, then you got to figure it out. If you're doing work for somebody else, then ask them. You know, do you guys handle the production, or do I need to build it in? Even if I'm not building it in myself, you know, I'm not responsible for it. I'm always thinking about it. I want to be able to give whoever would be working on this down the line for production easy decisions to make and not compromise quality. We got to get a little bit more beef out here, I think. So I'm just looking at reeds, right? Something that's going to help catch the eye a little bit. I'm not going to retopple this guy. This guy's actually going to be for collectible and print pipeline. Silly. Yeah, what Gail said actually is good, is really starting with the skeleton and knowing what muscles are connecting where is really the beginning of getting something that's successful in form for creature or character. Alright, so what I'm thinking about right now is just secondary forms. Most of the primary forms are in. I really just want to, let's see, is he going to have some of the same hangy skin here? Let's see if that's going to work. This might be cool to help lead your eye. It's more visual information. I don't know. We'll work with it for another minute. If not, then we'll try something else. Also, keeping consistent form language throughout your model is really awesome. Right, so from here we would see, you know, some hanging skin. Maybe there'll be some more hanging skin over here. Oh, hanging skin. That's kind of hanging skin. Hanging skin. Helps kind of tie in different aspects. We'll leave it for now. Maybe. So sometimes with those decisions that I don't quite know about, so a lot of times I'll just leave them, and then over time, you know, suddenly you're working on something else, and you go back and you're like, nope, that's not going to work. You know, you don't have to make the final decision right away, which is awesome, because we're artists. We don't have to make final decisions right away. It's awesome. Is it important to think about how the piece is going to be molded and cast and know where to hide the seams? Yeah, that's also important. I think for the most part, though, that okay, so here's what I did in that regard. So I figured so the chest and this arm will be one piece. Alright, so I've already thought about this and prepped for it. The leg will be another piece. This leg will be another piece. Right, so that seam will be underneath all of this stuff. Right? And then I actually hid another seam here. So the plan was that this piece and this arm could be probably just printed, and then the saddle for this piece would be sculpted into his shoulder, so that when you connect this, it just sits right on his shoulder. So yeah, I already thought about all that stuff. But yes, I would highly suggest thinking of that stuff before you start moving into this level of detail. So on the wrist, on the outside, is where you see that's the ulna out here. This would be the radius. Oh, you want to see the model face? How do you decide when to leave Dynamesh and start subdividing? That's always a really good question. For me, it's when the major form changes are finished and I need to get into smaller surface details, where excuse me, where Dynamesh really isn't going to hold all of that detail, the surface detail. There's a face for you. Okay, so ulna for the wrist happens on the top, right around there. I want to make sure that that's a big point there. We'll take it, straighten it out just a little bit. How much time does it take to do a character like this, approximately? It's a very good question. As much time as there is to get it done until it's due. It's really what it is, right? It's really about when you have to stop working on it. I mean, ultimately is, unless you just working on it on your own, and you don't really care about deadlines like this is. Then you can just take as much time as you want, really. But you know, let's say you were working freelance and somebody comes up to you with this. Usually what I do is I'll break it into just mentally. If somebody says, you know, how long is this going to take you? Mentally what I do is I break it up into stages of my own particular production, which is, okay, how long do I think it'll take to block this out? That's probably about 4 or 5 hours just to do the block out. Probably with a little bit of that in doing some of the asymmetrical posing and basic muscle sculpting, just to get everything kind of mapped in. Probably about 4 or 5 hours just to block it in. I don't know, I think, let's see, I'm probably like 10 or 12 streams into this guy, maybe? I don't know, I have to go back and look at how many streams I've done on this guy. Each one of them has been 2 hours, minus the difference for not concentrated work, but talking work. It's always a little bit more time that it takes to do something when you're streaming. So you're doing a lot of talking and showing of different things. So I'd say probably by now I've spent maybe 30 hours, maybe 25, something like that, to get to this point. I mean, so if you say 8 hours a day, then there you go. You know, you got the time it takes to get to the point where at least I'm at now. Yeah, I was working on hand, getting distracted. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on getting the fingers into the right shapes and working on just the overall forms. So the fingers feel too thin at this point. So knuckles are here. Need a little bit more form on the top here. So I'm just going to try to kind of block out what the overall forms are doing. So we got, let's say, knuckle, 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 knuckle. How does that feel? It feels about right. Let's make sure that these are feeling correct-ish. Okay. Let's make sure that we've got the ligaments in the hands that are going the correct ways. Okay, that one's coming this way, and this one's coming this way. Okay, those are the major forms there. Now let's adjust. So I'm looking at the silhouettes here. Overall, the fingers feel a little too thin. Now that I know the knuckle placement, I can define the silhouette a little bit better. Alright, this is, ugh, 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 gross. Okay, silhouette, fingers tips can be a little bit thicker. I think all these fingers got to be way more fattery. Just going to give a little bit more roundness to all these. Yo, what's up, Indy? How you doing, man? How are you, sir? Okay, this can go up. Joe, what's up, buddy? How you doing, man? The amazing Joe Mena. Dude, how are you, brother? Yeah, hands always suck in the beginning. But yeah, this is one of my first goes at a large scale print piece, man. Having fun so far. I really want to start getting into doing a lot more of this type of work. So Summit, dude, you're gonna do awesome at the Summit, man. But I remember, cause last year I was in the Sculpt Off, dude. That was not fun, dude. I still remember. So last year I was in the hard surface group, and you know you're going against Furo Tedeschi. and you know that guy's, you know, he's good. He's good. I'd say he's good. But he was in the I was in the first group and he was in the second group. So like after the first group went, you know, we all kind of like chilled out in the lounge, and you know, we're all hanging out watching everybody work in the second group. Furio, man, he's just killing it, right? He's like doing all this friggin' stuff like so good, and then like all of a sudden he like comes out from the sculpt room. He's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna go have a smoke." It's like, "Wait, what?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm okay." He took like 2 breaks in the whole thing, and still won. It's like, dude, too good, bro, too good. It was hilarious. He was just like, "Yeah, I'm gonna go take a smoke." Twice. Joe Mena, he's a really amazing um, sculptor. He's been working in collectibles for a long time. Last name is Menna. Look him up, man. Indy, look him up. You should know this. You should know this, man. Yeah, it sounds like him though, huh? It was so funny. He's like, yeah, I just need to go have a cigarette. Yeah, man. No, dude, I'm looking forward to the summit this year, dude. It's it'd be cool to see a new crop of or at least another sculpt off where I don't have to stress out about it. And that, Joe, you're actually doing a talk this year, right? You're doing a presentation on toy making and sculpting, right? So again, I'm just trying to get the overall forms in line. Right now, they're really all over the place. So anytime that you're working on trying to get the overall shapes correct, just go back to your anatomy and figure out those issues first. You know, think about landmarks and think about you know, what skeletal structures are there, and then just use your knowledge. You know. Alright, so like finger comes this way, and then you got a knuckle there, and you got a knuckle there. Usually at the knuckle area from the top, you know, you're going to get a little bit of a silhouette break. You know, it depends on the type of hand too. You know, if you got short stubby hands, like a lot of times, like you're just gonna be sausages. You know. Okay. All right, Joe. Good to see you, man. I'll see you this weekend, buddy. All right. So this here, this has got issues. So hand is a separate subtool. How is it when you bring the rest of the tools back? It's because I hid my seam underneath this. Right there. Must be clever. Clever girl. See, there you go. And that's probably where a key will end up happening in here. So I'm thinking about how the finger bones are looking. So we've got knuckle, 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 knuckle. Alright, that's the first knuckle. Second one, second knuckle, second knuckle. Right, so now I know what my silhouettes are going to be needing to do. So like this one was wrong, so this has got to come up, and this probably got to come down a little bit. What's up, Polygon? How you doing, man? How are you, sir? More hand stuff. Alright, and then, so by this time, usually what I try to do is start blocking in where the fingernails go. Like this looks like a broken hand. This silhouette looks a little too wavy. So sometimes you just want to do subtle things, you know? A lot of times subtlety is better than going off the deep end. So like this needs to be a little bit thicker. Yeah, man. How was your first stream, dude? I think you have you done more than one stream now, Polygon? So what I'm looking at is the silhouette of the hand from all views now, right? So like we've got this, we're gonna see this knuckle happening, you know, from back here we're gonna see those knuckles happening, which I think they still need a lot of work, right? So all of this we're gonna see. This is super important for just nailing the silhouette. Right, we're going to see silhouette, 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 not to be confused with the pirouette, right? Again, silhouette. So these knuckles are really, really, really important to make sure that they sell, you know? Second one's today. Dude, awesome. Guys, Polygon is doing his second stream today. So be sure to check his stuff out. He does some really cool stylized stuff. Yeah, so this hand is going to be seen from a lot of different points, right? So like, it's super important that this hand breaks this silhouette from the column here because it's connecting, right? So like because you see this little silhouette happening, you're like, oh, his hand is up there. Got it. Okay. Got it. So really want to make sure that I absolutely nail this hand. I think one of the things that's happening is that these four knuckles are almost on the same exact plane. But that doesn't really happen very much. If you look, this knuckle here is usually lower than this one. Right? So you have like this nice roundness that comes this way. It's to help your hand, like it's to help this knuckle come around the side. It's really cool. I didn't know this for a long time. Is like, why do you have different length fingers? You're like, oh, it's so that when you grab things, you can equally, like it all comes to a flat plane when you do that. Isn't that crazy? Because this finger has to travel further than this one does from across the side, and this one does from across the side. And then these two travel about the same distance. Isn't that crazy? When I first realized that, I was like, oh my god, why is it different lengths? Oh, why? Oh, what? It was awesome. Anyways, so I want to make sure that the overall I know. Oh, it's perfect reference, man. Right, so this is... I want to make sure that I capture that just in super subtlety at least. And sometimes it's those little things that really like... that you may not realize that are really holding your model back. Just that overall cell of the right forms. And the other thing too is that if you look from this side, right, when you kind of put your hand loose, it also has a curvature to it. It has a small curvature to it. It's not the level of this one is not the same as this one and this one and this one, right? This one sits a little bit lower, sits a little bit lower. This one is the most high. Not as in holy. Right? So it has like a nice little curvature here. And that's pretty much skeletal, right? So that isn't going to change too much. Like this can move a little bit. Like if you like put pressure on this part of your hand, that's going to move a little bit, but not a whole lot. So if you're grabbing something like this, I mean, look at that shape right there. Right? So you're going to see this knuckle corner. You're really going to see this top middle knuckle, and then a little bit of this one, and then your pinky knuckle usually goes into the silhouette of your hand. So I also want to make sure that I'm getting that. So it looks like this one probably could come down a little bit, and this one can come down. And this may be able to fill in a little bit there. Gail's come a long way, man. Gail's a really good testament to the amount of work that you can get done relatively quickly. I still remember when Gail came up and he was like, "Dude, what's up, man? I need some advice." And now you teaching freaking CGMA master classes or CGMA classes. Just in a short amount of time. It's crazy, dude. You've done some awesome stuff, brother. Brother. So proud of you. So proud. Baby Saul's grown up. Alright. So now that we start, now that we've seen those changes, we'll see how that's feeling. I feel like his hand is pretty big. Looking at this hand though, okay, got it. Alright, this curvature feels a little better now. Is that Marcellus Wallace? Marcellus Wallace. I see you, dude. I see you, homie. What's up? Alright. So I think the thumb needs a little bit more love. So we got first knuckle, second knuckle. Oh yeah, I was mapping in the fingernails. So I'm still looking at the silhouette values up here. Feel like this one has got to come back a bit. I don't want to push this geo too far. So I think what I'm going to do is instead I'm just going to smooth this out and resculpt it here. So instead of pushing this shape back and really messing with the topology, sometimes it's better to just resculpt than it is to push polys. Then you start getting into weird topology flow and stuff. Whew, man, this hand still needs so much work. So much. Okay, so now that we've got the knuckles, we can start putting in the inside folds. Okay, got that. Okay, we got this one here, got that one there. This one. I feel like I'm missing one. Am I missing one? I am. It's there and there. Yes, that's better. Then this shape can come out a little bit. So right now I'm sculpting the hands as not pressed against something, because I want to get the landmarks correct first. So once I have the landmarks correct and the anatomy is correct, then I'll go into making like the difference between like your fingers like actually pressing on something, you know, because oops, whoa, because he's holding on to something, I want to make sure that the forms sell that. Right now he's just lightly touching it, which doesn't look right. So before I get into the interaction sculpting, I always make sure that the anatomy is correct first. So a lot of times when I'm doing hands like this too, I'm all over the place. Happens a ton. What I try to do when I catch myself doing that is just focus on one finger at a time. So I think I'm going to work from the index finger to pinky, just to make sure that I'm getting things correct. So when I'm holding on to something, you know, am I holding on like this? Am I holding on like this? You know, this is less interesting than this. I think by pressing the finger in and getting this kind of shape, this kind of hold, is more interesting than this kind of hold in this particular case. So I'm gonna probably try for this type of hold where he's got. Let's see if we got a book or something to. Titanfall 2. There we go. So like probably something like this. I don't know if you can see this very well. So looks like the pinky sits almost flat on there, and you see that the ring finger is probably the highest. But also I'm looking at how the fingers line up from this view, right? Depending on your hand, obviously. But they're, for the most part, those three are straight. Or at least, you know, along a line. So maybe we'll do that. So then what we'll do is we'll make sure that this one's the highest. This one's coming a little bit lower. Again, I'm going to end up rotating these fingertips. So this one's going to be a little bit lower. And then this one's going to be more towards straight, which it's close to. Okay, so then what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new one called position. So I'm going to take let's go down to 2 here. Something like this. Place that somewhere toward the middle, and I'm just going to rotate that up. I'm going to see if this will even work. So I'm going to have to reposition some of the hand here. Maybe we can get away with a little bit less. Alright, let's try. Yeah, what's up, Hannibal? I think you've been here for a little while, but I just haven't realized it. I think what we can do... Let's still mask this off in here. So we're going to see if we can pull... Let me pull this down a little bit. Right, so those fingers are actually sinking in, which is good, because then I'm going to pull this back up like this. So it's going to come out and then down and then out again. Yeah, I use XYZ and ZBrush all the time. Usually for my head workflow, what I'll do is I'll sculpt the base head, and then I usually go into like Mari, or yeah, I usually use Mari, and then I'll project that displacement maps, and then I'll use that displacement map based on the UVs here. And then all you have to do is do apply displacement map, and then I usually apply that to a layer, and then you can mess with the amount on the layer and then just keep sculpting on it. So I usually use that as the base for my pour passes. And then that is, we'll do sculpting on top of that. Okay, I think that's gonna work. So then let's grab this dude. Make sure that I don't have anything over there. Put that in the middle of the finger, and then we'll just... Now we start seeing some of that pressure. And the pressure. Right, of him actually holding that. Okay, cool. Got that finger. So much more to learn. Yep. Always more to learn. Okay, and then we'll just change to the brush. Just grab the rest of this back here. Back here. Just flip, and then we'll... Okay, there we go. And put that right almost where the knuckle is. Something like that, and then we'll just rotate from here. And then you can hide the mask. See how that's looking. Now we're feeling a little bit more of that like actual pressure and interaction happening. Even just in the form. Not even that, I mean in the position of the skeleton. Right? Because we get like this pressure down here. It kind of sells the I'm holding on to this feel. Yeah, it depends. It all depends on where the majority of the weight of this thing is. Right now, the majority of the weight's actually on his shoulder, so this is more. This hand would be more for balancing and controlling the weight than it would be bearing the weight. So right now, I would think that he'd be just kind of pressing on it like this. Like this. Because he's basically compressing it against his arm, right? And then the majority of the weight is actually on his shoulder. Like that. Okay, now we can adjust. Come on. Oh, yeah. Let's clear the mask. Now we can start adjusting the knuckles in order to fit better. So we'll take a look from this side. All right, so let's get the fingernails in. At least where they are, because then we can start pulling up some of these areas where the skin is crunching in and being compressed. Help, I'm being compressed. And again, he doesn't have really nicely manicured fingernails, so I'm just going to be kind of gross about it here. Alright, so now, alright, one finger at a time, Brendon. One finger at a time, Jesus. Okay, so we've got compression here. We're going to do some skin folds there. Okay. Let's work out the bottom shapes here. Then let's maybe just let's flatten out the fingertips just to see where they're going to be pressing down. Man, hands take forever. Forever. But the awesome and horrible thing about hands, and I think feet can be in this argument as well, is there really are a make or break thing, right? Even in paintings too. If you can nail the hands and or feet, if you can nail them, man, it just makes everything click, right? A lot of the quality is because right now I feel like the foot is a little meh, but I feel like this hand feels pretty good. But it really does make or break your model or your painting. So if you can nail those, spend a little extra time on it, because even though if people don't look at them directly, you still see it, you know? So it's still super important to spend some time and get those things right. Make those hands and feet correct. Right, all of this is still really mushy and gross. So even though we're not going to see that, we really want to make sure that the anatomy lands correctly, because it informs all of the other things that you're doing, right? Yeah, the striations of muscle and compressed wrinkles of major joints. Thanks, man. Yeah, I mean, especially when you're doing a posed character, making sure all that stuff is correct is, you know, is going to end up selling the believability of a giant troll holding a column. So any extra believability is good. I think we can get a little bit extra. A little bit of extra forms through here. All right, if you're looking at the side of the hand, you know, depending on whose hand it is, this is mostly a pad, and then you have another smaller pad up here, right? So as you compress that down, a lot of times you get this form deformation in here. So getting some of that happening, and then maybe we can even pull some of this out a little bit, right, to see where that skin is building up, like that. Oh yeah. Right, so we got bulk of the skeletal form, and now bulking up of the hand pad, or the palm pad. Okay, maybe we can add a little bit more there. And always be checking your silhouettes from like every angle. So now we got this form of the skeletal base, and then now that feels pretty good. So now this weak side is starting to feel a little bit better. We add a lot more in here, but just getting this hand into the right shape. I feel like this is getting a little bit too rounded. We're starting to lose some of that wrist bend. So if I have this, right, we still see a little bit of this shape difference versus this part of the arm, right? A lot of times what's going to happen is whatever this shape is from here to here will be a separate shape from where this is to the forearm. So really want to make sure, at least try it, right? So if you pull this guy in, and we get that nice wrist break happening. Right, so we've got the meat of the thumb happening here, and we've got this form break through here happening at the wrist. Look at that. Paying very, very, very close attention to that silhouette. Super important. This still feels a little bit weak. We'll come back to it. Again, we're seeing a little bit of the wrist here. The thumb still needs lots of work. But as we're seeing this now, we'll see this form break where the curvature from the knuckle to the wrist is a different curvature than wrist to the elbow. So it may take a little bit extra time for all this little detail. And you're like, well, you know, you're not really going to see that. You really have to pay attention to what your direct eye sees and what your peripheral eye sees. You know, when you look at, there's been plenty of times when you look at something and you're like, it just feels wrong, you know? A lot of times that's your peripheral vision not being able to, you know, sensing that something, knowing that something is wrong, but not being able to tell what it is. That's kind of what the uncanny valley is, where, like, you know, you've stared at people's faces your whole life, and you're looking at this particular one, you're like, something's wrong. Something's wrong. You don't necessarily know what it is, but you're like, okay, jeez, man. Alright, I got it. You may not know exactly what's wrong, but you know something is. You know? You get a little bit more curve out of these here. Am I lulling all you guys to sleep? Let's see how that's looking. Yeah. I feel like this interaction can be a little bit better here. This is starting to feel better, right? We've got this nice curve through here. Knuckles are curved down a little bit. We've got this curvature happening. We got some weight on the fingers now. Once you start working out all those details, everything else just kind of starts falling in line. It's just awesome. I love when that happens. Okay. I think the major forms are starting to feel pretty good. Save your file. If you're working on something, save it. Save it! Make sure those fingers are wide enough. Alright, so now start blocking a little bit of this compression here, through here. Let's try to sell that a little bit more. I want to make sure that it's not the same exact lines in between each one, so yeah, maybe some of them are higher or angled more. Alright, we do have to fix the pinky still. Let's grab this. I didn't even save it. All that time, I didn't save it. Okay, there we go. Sorry, I'm drinking in your guys' ear. I think it's better that than having so dry mouth, because that's gross. I don't like that. Alright, we'll just lift this dude up just a touch. Alright, so this guy is almost straight across. That's kind of cool. There we go. So you got this nice fall off of, like, you know, high, lots of compression, medium compression, and then the whole finger is compressing. What's cool is that if you get enough of those details in, or just structural details, it really makes all the difference, man. And then the fine details, tertiary details, and smaller secondary forms is all just making it look better. Not selling it, but making it look better. I always say the true test of a sculpt is how it looks before all the tertiary detail comes in. If you can nail that, that's good. Okay, let's break the form here. I want to make sure that these nails are a different form than the rest of the finger. These pieces come out. This comes down. So we get that form break in there. For the fingers. And maybe what we'll do is we'll make sure that this guy is actually getting pushed out of the way a little bit. So once you start getting things kind of lined up, it's really cool to get interaction things happening where you can tell oof, all that's got to come down. All that's got to come down. Here we go. That's a little better. Okay. I think we can starting to lose this knuckle shape a little bit. Pull that back in. Okay. Feeling good. Alright, continue the fingernails here for a couple minutes. I think we can step up one subdivision level here. Start digging out some of this area. You start get a little bit more geo, so we can start pushing and pulling these forms a little bit easier. So again, just remap in the areas here, and then we'll pull. Make sure that this shape is a different shape from the surrounding. A little bit of bulge on the side of the fingers there. Hey yo, 8 o'clock. Just start getting a little bit of this separation. Right, so we see this form is clearly separate form than the rest that's around it. Just really making sure that those are reading. Smooth that guy out. Put this guy in a little bit more. Okay, then we pull this guy out a little bit. Every hand is a little bit different. So usually what I try to do in this stage is just block out something, and then I can go around afterwards and push and pull those details a little bit more to kind of fit the correct shape and character of the hand. But I'll try to get the base shape in first. I'm not too worried about the characteristic of the hand at the fingertips. At this point, I would just want to get the details in, and then what I'll do is I'll start trying to family it with this one a little bit more, right? Because we still got different types of things going on there. So I just want to get the details in, and then we'll characterize them a little bit more. And I think that's about going to be it for me for this one, ladies and gentlemen, boys and gerbils. Got to get the family up, get ready for work, go pay those bills. Friday, well, Thursday is the sculpt off. So be sure to, I think Thursday is the sculpt off, right? Be sure to tune in to ZBrushLIVE, ZBrushLIVE.com. I'm sure we'll have it going. Also the Pixelogic channel. Yeah, Gail, it was good to have you. Good to have you, man. Always a pleasure to have you here, bro. Always a pleasure. Alrighty. I think we got some good stuff done. We worked on our weak side today, and did a little bit more on the legs to kind of get some of those more secondary details kind of in line, familying with the rest of it. So yeah, I'm actually signed up for 3 streams next month, so I'm gonna try to get this guy wrapped up here pretty soon. Trying to get him wrapped up because I'm getting project fatigue. But I'm trying to do all of the work that I do in this guy on the stream, so it gives you guys a really good view of everything, you know, the whole project. So there may be some times when I do some work on it on the side, but for the most part, I'm going to try to get this guy wrapped up here pretty soon. Alright. It's been fun. It's been real. It actually has been really fun. So thanks guys for coming by. Hope you guys had fun. Hope you guys learned a couple things, but most of all, I hope you were inspired to go make your own cool stuff. So do it. Go out there and you make cool stuff. And then you make it better. And then make it better. And then keep doing it. And then scrap it and do it again. It's starting to sound like my football coach. Alright guys. Thanks for coming by. Thanks for the good talks, and we will see you soon. Later.